Her father sold her to a mafia boss to pay his debt, but she never expected to fall in love with him. Some stories are hard to believe, not because they are fake, but because they are too real. This is one of those stories. It is the story of a young woman named Sofia, a girl who never asked for trouble, never did anything wrong, and still ended up in the middle of something most people only see in movies. Sofia was 23 years old when her life changed forever. She was the kind of person who kept her head down, worked hard, and never complained. She helped her mother cook every evening. She sent money home from her small job at a fabric shop. She was the oldest daughter in her family, and she took that responsibility seriously. She believed in her family. She believed in her father. That was her first mistake. Her father, Ernesto, was not a bad man by nature, but he had a weakness that swallowed him whole: gambling. He started small, like most people do. A card game here, a bet there, nothing serious. But over time, the games got bigger, the bets got higher, and the losses got worse. By the time Sofia was old enough to understand what was happening, her father was already deep inside a hole he could not climb out of. The man Ernesto owed money to was not someone you could ignore. His name was Damian Vargas. He ran operations across 3 cities. Nobody talked about what exactly he did, but everyone knew enough to stay out of his way. He had a reputation that made people lower their voices whenever his name came up. He was not a man who sent reminder letters. When Damian Vargas wanted his money back, you found a way. Ernesto owed him $200,000. He had nothing, no savings, no property, no way out. So he did something that fathers should never do. He offered his daughter. He told Sofia they were going to a dinner meeting. He said someone important wanted to discuss a business opportunity. He told her to dress nicely and not to ask too many questions. Sofia trusted him. She got into the car, fixed her hair, and went with him, completely unaware that she was being handed over like a payment. When they arrived at the Vargas compound, a large, quiet estate on the edge of the city, Sofia still did not understand what was happening. It was only when her father stood up to leave and would not look her in the eyes that something cold moved through her chest. She called out to him. He walked faster. The door closed, and that was that. A man in a dark suit told her politely, but firmly, that she would be staying. She asked for how long. He did not answer. She asked why. He told her that her father had made an arrangement. She would be a guest of Mr. Vargas until certain matters were resolved. Guest. That was the word he used. As if she had chosen to be there. Sofia did not cry that night. She was too stunned to cry. She sat on the edge of a bed in a room that was clean and properly furnished, nothing like a prison cell, and stared at the wall for a long time. She kept thinking her father would come back, that he would fix this, that this was some sort of terrible misunderstanding. But morning came, and he did not come back. And then another morning, and another. That was when Sofia understood. Her father had sold her, and he was not coming. Damian Vargas was not what she expected. She had built up a picture of him in her mind during those first days. Cold, loud, cruel, the kind of man who enjoyed making people afraid. But the first time she actually saw him, he was sitting alone, at a long table, with a cup of coffee and a newspaper, and he looked almost ordinary. He was tall, dark-haired, somewhere in his late 30s. He did not look at her the way she feared. He looked at her the way someone looks at a problem they are trying to figure out. He told her the rules clearly. She was free to move around the compound. She was not free to leave it. She would have her own room, her meals, anything she needed, within reason. She would not be harmed, and in return, she would stay until he decided the debt had been satisfied. Sofia stared at him for a moment. Then she said, very quietly, "And if I refuse?" He said, "You won't." He was right. She didn't. But not because she was afraid. She refused to run or beg because she had decided, somewhere in those first sleepless nights, that she was not going to fall apart. She was not going to give anyone, not Damian, not her father, not the men in dark suits, the satisfaction of seeing her break. She was going to survive this with her dignity fully intact. And so she watched. She observed. She paid attention to everything around her. She noticed that Damian barely slept. She would sometimes hear footsteps in the hallways at 2 or 3 in the morning, and through the gap under her door, she could see the light in his study was always on. She noticed that none of the people who worked for him ever laughed around him, not because they were terrified, but because he never gave them reason to. The whole place had a kind of tension in it, like everyone was waiting for something. One afternoon, about 3 weeks into her stay, Sofia walked into the library. She had been given permission to use it, and found Damien sitting in a chair by the window. He was not reading, he was just sitting there, staring at nothing. On the small table beside him was a framed photograph, face down. She wanted to ask about it. She decided not to, but she remembered it. Their first real conversation happened by accident. Sofia had been looking through the bookshelves when she pulled out a book, and a small piece of paper fell out from between the pages. She picked it up. It was a note, handwritten, in what looked like a child's handwriting. It said, "For when you forget how to be soft." She held it out to him. "I think this belongs to you." He looked at the paper for a long moment before taking it. Then, unexpectedly, he said, "My daughter wrote that." Sofia did not know he had a daughter. She did not know anything about his personal life. She had assumed men like him didn't have personal lives, just business and power and empty rooms. "How old is she?" Sofia asked. 7, he said. "She lives with her mother, far from here." He paused. "Far from me." He said it in a way that carried a lot of weight. Sofia did not push further, but something shifted in how she saw him. Not forgiveness. She was very far from that. Just a small, reluctant recognition that there was more to him than the name and the reputation. Over the weeks that followed, they fell into an odd kind of routine. Damien would sometimes be in the library in the evenings, and Sofia would be there too. At first they said nothing to each other, then they said small things. Then one night, without either of them planning it, they were in the middle of a real conversation, about books, about cities, about what it means to choose a life versus being pushed into one. Sofia was sharp. She challenged him. She did not pretend to agree with him or soften her words to keep him comfortable. When he said something she disagreed with, she said so. And the strange thing was, he seemed to respect that. Most people around him agreed with everything he said. She was the only one who pushed back, and he let her. But Sofia was also fighting something inside herself that scared her. Because somewhere between the conversations, and the long evenings, and the quiet moments, when his guard came all the way down, she had started to feel something for him. And she hated herself for it. She told herself it was just loneliness. She told herself it was the circumstances. Being isolated, being dependent, naturally attaching to the one person who showed her any consistency. She had read about this in books. She knew it had a name. She refused to give in to it. Then one night, everything changed. A rival group launched an attack on the compound. It was fast and sudden, the kind of thing that gave you no time to think. There was noise and shouting and movement everywhere. Sofia was in the hallway when someone grabbed her arm roughly and pulled her towards a side door. She didn't know if it was one of Damien's men or one of the attackers. Then she felt Damien's hand on her other arm, firm, solid, sure, pulling her the other way. He put himself between her and the door. He did not have to do that. There were other things he could have done in that moment, more important things, more practical things. But he stayed with her until the whole situation was contained. Later, when it was quiet again, she sat in the hallway with her back against the wall, still catching her breath. He sat down a few feet away from her. Neither of them said anything for a while. Then she said, "You didn't have to do that." He said, "I know." That was when Sofia stopped fighting what she felt. She did not announce it. She did not act on it immediately. But she stopped pretending it wasn't there. The cruelest moment came about a month later. A woman named Lucia, one of Damien's most trusted people, told Sofia that there had been word about her father. Sofia's heart jumped. For a second she thought he had found a way to pay the debt, that he was coming for her, that he had been trying all along. But the news was different. Ernesto Reyes had been spotted at a casino in another city. He had been gambling. He was not trying to clear his debt. He had not tried to reach Sofia even once. He had simply moved on. Sofia sat with that for a long time. She did not cry. She had spent too many years excusing her father, covering for him, protecting him from the consequences of his own choices. She had loved him with a loyalty that he had traded away for a card game. And now she had nothing left to give him. Not anger, not forgiveness. Just a quiet, tired kind of grief for the father she had wanted him to be. It was Damien who found her sitting alone in the garden that evening. He didn't say much. He just sat nearby in silence. the way you do with someone who is not ready for words yet. And she realized, sitting there, that he understood loss in a way that very few people did. The daughter far away, the life he had built that kept him from everything that mattered. He had made choices that cost him too. The weeks after that were different. Sofia was no longer staying because she had no choice. She was staying because she wasn't ready to leave, and she was honest enough with herself to admit it. Then one morning, Damien called her into the study. He told her the debt was gone. He had erased it. No payment, no conditions, no transfer to anyone else. She was free to go. He told her there would be a car ready whenever she wanted it. She looked at him for a long moment. "Why?" she asked. He was quiet for a second. Then he said, "Because I cannot keep something that deserves to choose." Sofia left the next morning. She walked out of the compound with her things in a small bag and got into the car. She looked straight ahead as they drove down the long road toward the gate. Then she asked the driver to stop. She sat there for a while, long enough that the driver asked if she was all right. She did not answer right away. She was thinking about every reason she should keep going. Her old life, her freedom, her dignity. The fact that this situation was never supposed to happen in the first place. Then she thought about an evening in a library, and a note written in a child's handwriting, and a man who stayed in a hallway when he didn't have to. She asked the driver to turn around. This is not the kind of love story anyone plans. Nobody grows up dreaming about falling for someone under those kinds of circumstances. Sofia would be the first person to tell you that what happened to her was wrong, completely, without any excuse. Her father had no right. Damien had no right. She lost months of her life to something that should never have been allowed to happen. But she would also tell you that the love she found inside that time was real. Not because the situation created it, but because she and Damien, slowly and honestly, chose it. She never stopped being herself. He never tried to make her smaller, and over the years that followed, he quietly and steadily dismantled the life that had made him dangerous. Not for reputation, not for anyone else's approval, but because he wanted to be someone she did not have to explain away. They are still together today. They do not have an easy story to tell at dinner parties, but they have a true one. And Sofia, who once sat on the edge of a bed in a stranger's house and refused to fall apart, will tell you that truth, even when it is complicated, is always worth more than a comfortable lie. She never forgave her father. She tried for a while, for her own peace, but some doors close without ever properly opening again. What she did learn, though, and what she holds on to, is that being betrayed by someone does not mean you are finished. It means you find out what you are made of, and she found out she was made of something strong.